Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You're in the Prog Corner. Today, we're starting a brand new series. I'm really excited about it. Prog around the world, a global prog phenomenon. Prog is everywhere. The four corners of the earth are littered with prog, and we are going to go on an adventure. We're going to go on a travelogue and document the greatest prog bands from various nations. And today we're starting with Sweden. Yeah, why not? One of the most important countries in the development of prog rock, all the way from the 70s on. And certainly the third wave of prog would not have happened if it weren't for bands like Landberk and Anekdoten and Änglagård. Sweden has always punched above their weight, not just in music, but in world affairs also. With a population of 10.5 million, it ranks 87th in the world, in area 55th in the world, in GDP 25th in the world, but per capita GDP is 12th in the world with an astounding $56,000 per person. King Carl the 16th Gustav is the head of state. Head of government is the Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson. Yeah, there's been a whole bunch of non-prog that Sweden is famous for. Obviously, ABBA is the first thing that comes to mind, but how about, Roxette and Ace of Base, The Sounds, The Knife, Swedish House Mafia, Tove Lo, Tallest Man on Earth, yeah, he's Swedish. Robin, that great pop producer Max Martin. How about Yngwie Malmsteen? Yeah, he's Swedish. That whole Swedish metal, neoclassical thing. Sweden definitely is where that got started. Then we got a bunch of bands I'm not going to mention, some of them because I'm not really that familiar with them, kind of on the metal-y end of things, and some of them because they only put out one album, and we're not going to do those bands. So bands like Kaipa de Capo with the Roine Stolt bringing the old members of Kaipa back, Dice, Alter Echo, Blackula, Cultivator, Atlas. I'm not going to include any of those bands. As great as they are, they only put out one album. All Traps on Earth also fall into that category. And then on the heavier side, Catatonia, Evergrey, Cult of Luna, Edge of Sanity, Therion. I just don't know that kind of music. I'm not going to rank them. I'm sorry. But, there's more. How about Dungeon? How about Wolverine, Sienna Root, Andromeda, Mats Morgan, Carp Tree, Jonas Limburg, Black Bonzo, Seventh Wonder, Dark Water, Bright Eye Bryson, Gungfly, Brother Ape, and the great Nad Sylvan. He's not included, but I bet you he will make an appearance somewhere in the top 25 of the greatest progressive Swedish acts of all time. And we're starting at number 25 with Meshuggah. Are these guys prog? Well, they're not really, capital P prog in any sense of the word. These guys are metal. These guys are just insane, but they invented their own subgenre. So for that reason and that reason only, they absolutely deserve to be here. And I'm putting the spotlight on their second album, Destroy, Erase, Improve from 1995. They've got 10 albums out. Their last album dropped last year. I didn't love it. It wasn't great. But, man, these guys, just insane. They're nuts at number 24. How about the Hasse Froberg Musical Companion? Yeah, this spin-off group from the Flower Kings has now put out 5 fabulous records. I'm spotlighting the third album, but I could have done the fourth or fifth because those are great too. You got Hasse Froberg, the great singer and guitar player from the Flower Kings, venturing off onto his own. Ola Strandberg is his drummer. He does a lot of the writing. He does a lot of the backing vocals, so he's a big part of what they do. It's like the Flower Kings, but a little more AOR, a little bit more accessible, a little bit more rock and roll. It's really good. At number 23, how about Ragnarök? Yeah, their debut album, 1976. They're a little softer, mellower, kind of gentle, pastoral. They use a lot of folk references, but there's some jazz rock in here too. It's all instrumental. They have, various albums out. This is the only one I really know that well. You could probably make a connection to Ragnarök to Camel or maybe early Genesis. I need to listen to some more of their records because this one is phenomenal at number 22. Yeah, I said we were going to talk about Nad Sylvan, and here it is, Agents of Mercy. Little bit of a side project that Nad Sylvan and Roine Stolt put together. They put 3 great albums out. I'm spotlighting the third and final one, The Black Forest. Joining Nad and Roine, you have Lale Larsen from Karmakanic, and of course, the great Jonas Reingold, who seems to go wherever Roine Stolt goes. Just an amazing band. I really love all 3 Agents of Mercy. Very Flower Kingsy. If you like Nad Sylvan's voice, you're going to love those at number 21. One of the foundational bands of the third wave of Prog. Scando Prog wouldn't have, become what it was and scaled the mountains that it did if it weren't for Landberk. Formed in 1992. These guys put 4 albums out, and I'm putting the spotlight on their first one, which came out in 1992. These guys are dark, atmospheric, kind of King Crimson-y. Maybe like a simpler, more scaled down version of Änglagård, but these guys rely more on emotional impact. They sing in Swedish. I love Landberk, a little different animal, but really great at number 20. It's ACT. Yeah, this is a band that, wears a lot of their, influences on their sleeve. You hear Queen and you hear Saga, you hear Supertramp. So, more of the commercial side of Prog, I guess. But these guys rock out with the best of them. I am going to spotlight their 2003 album, Last Epic. It's really, really good. But, for the more modern ACT stuff, their last 3 records have all been EPs, Rebirth, Heatwave, and Falling. All 3 of them are really, really strong. If you like the bands that I just referenced, you're probably going to like these guys a lot at number 19. For the greatest bands from Sweden, it's Sinkadus. Yeah, another one of those foundational bands from the 90s. Helped really jumpstart the third wave of Prog. These guys sound remarkably like Änglagård, even though they actually were formed before Änglagård. Änglagård's first 2 albums came out first, and then Sinkadus put out their debut album, 1997's Arum Nostrum. I'm spotlighting their second and final album from 1999, Circus. Both are really good and definitely took their cues from Änglagård. I'd like to hear some early Sinkadus to see just how much influence Änglagård really had on them. But I really do enjoy both of those albums at number 18. We're going with an all-instrumental band from the modern era called Agusa. These guys have 4 albums out, and I'm spotlighting their latest one, In Anekdoten. Really, really cool, very retro, very vintagey. It's all, very, very spacey like, but I enjoy what they do quite a bit. They have connections to Hooffoot and the Orison Space Collective, so they've had some lineup changes because some of these bands are like floating in and out of different bands, but Agusa is really cool. Check them out at number 17. Another one from the third wave, it's Pär Lindh and the Pär Lindh Project. These guys put out 4 albums. The first one was Gothic Impressions, which was really cool because it had Roine Stolt, Matthias Olsson, and Anna Holmgren from Änglagård. But I'm going to spotlight their second album, Mundus Incomparatus, because I really do like that one. They're both great. The third and fourth albums are good, but the first 2 Pär Lindh albums are fantastic. He even makes an appearance on the first Änglagård album. Definitely one of the main guys that got it all together early in the 90s to bring prog rock back from the dead. Thank you, Pär Lindh. Big part of that history there at number 16. Yeah, we talked about this band a little bit without even talking about them. It's Karmakanic. Yeah, we talked about Jonas Reingold and Lala Larsen. They're joined by singer Gordon Edmund and the great guitar player Krister Johnson, who appeared on the Tangents Place in the Queue album. Just phenomenal, the drummers that this band has had. They've put out 5 albums. Their first 3 had Zoltan, the great Zoltan Soros on drums. The 4th one had Marcus Lilliquist, another Flower Kings drummer. The 5th album had the great Morgan Agren. So, yeah, these guys always have good drumming. I love all 5 of their albums. Yeah, Roine Stolt was on the first album. I'm spotlighting the 3rd album, Who's the Boss in the Factory from 2008, but I could have done any of the 5 because I really, really love them. At number 15, It's Gösta Berlings Saga, formed in 2004 in Sweden. These guys play in all kinds of dark sounds and really weird soundscapes and intricate passages. Very, very cool. Mostly instrumental. I think it's all instrumental. I'd have to go back and listen to all their records again, but I don't remember hearing any vocals. They've got 6 albums out, but I'm spotlighting their brilliant second album, Detta Har Hunt. Wow, this thing just is amazing. I love it. It's Einar Baldursson, David Lundberg, Gabriel Hermansson, and Alexander Skep. What a cool band Gösta Berlings Saga is. At number 14, we're going to get a little bit heavier, and we're going to talk about Pain of Salvation. Daniel Gildenlow's band, formed in 1984 as a band called Reality. I guess he was really influenced by Fate's Warning and Dream Theater coming up. They changed the name to Pain of Salvation back in 1991. I'm spotlighting their 4th album, Remedy Lane, but their 3rd album, Perfect Element Part 1, definitely could have been highlighted here. And I'm a big fan of their last 2 albums, man. The Passing Light of Day and Panther. Both of those are really, really good emotional records. Yeah, the music's on the heavier side, but Daniel Gildenlow's always got something interesting to say, and he's always got a really interesting way of going about, doing these heavier sounds, but keeping it progressive. At number 13, a band I have absolutely no chance of pronouncing this one. It's Trettioäriga Kriget. How about let's just call these guys TK? Yeah, their first album came out in 1974. It's been compared to Rush a little bit because these guys are very guitar heavy. It's a guitar-centric sound they have going on here. But they utilize a lot of jazz and some psych in their sound. Also very cool. The name translates to the 30 Years' War. If you like mellotrons and raw guitars, this could be a band you really, really get into. They just dropped an album in 2021 called Till Horizonten, which was actually great. So these guys are still around. Man, oh man, it's been almost 50 years and we still got TK to kick around at number 12. Band I almost forgot when I'm putting this together. How about Galleon? And I'm spotlighting their 7th album, From Land to Ocean, primarily because it's the only one I've heard all the way through. Yeah, I've heard bits and pieces of their other albums. I guess they've got 9 albums out, and I've heard parts of almost all of them, and I really like them, but this is the one that really kind of sticks, and this is the one people always seem to, talk about when talking about Galleon, and why not? Their sound is kind of rock and roll. It's AOR influence, so you think of Saga a little bit, but you hear IQ, you hear some of the modern metal elements. So who do they really sound like? They might sound a little bit like Arena, actually. At number 11, it's Beardfish. This is Ricard Soldier-Bloom's band. They put 8 albums out before they disbanded in 2016. I guess primarily because Ricard was joining Big Big Train, where he's still a member. They've got, let's see, what are we doing here for Beardfish? We're doing Sleeping in Traffic Part 2. This was their 4th album and easily their best album. These guys bring a little bit of Zappa in their sound, a little bit of Gentle Giant in their sound. I really do enjoy it. Sad to see them go, but hey, they made the list. And here we go. We're in the top 10, kiddies. And this is one I've been really, really wanting to talk about for a while. It's Ritual. Oh, yeah. And I am spotlighting their brilliant 4th album, the Hemulic Voluntary Band. I love their first album. The 2nd and 3rd albums are good, but they didn't really hit me in the sweet spot. But man, this one does. Look at that album cover. This one is just crying for a vinyl release. It's Gentle Giant-y. There's Yes influences. There's a 26-minute long epic to close the thing out. It's got amazing artwork. And you've got the incredible voice of Patrick Lundstrom, who does, sound a little bit like Freddie Mercury. He is, of course, also the singer in Kaipa. But unlike in Kaipa, where he's always had Roine Stoll or Per Nilsson playing guitar, this is kind of like Ted Leonard in Pattern Seeking Animals. Now all of a sudden he's got a chance to show off his guitar abilities. So yeah, Patrick plays guitar and sings. John Gamble on keyboards, Fredrik Lindvist on bass, and Johan Nordgren on drums. I love this band. I love this album I'm spotlighting. They have put out an EP since then, Glimpses from the Story of Mr. Bogue, which came out in 2020. Supposed to be like a little appetizer for a brand new album, but hey, it's been 3 years. Where is it? At number 9. Yeah, this is a band, the weirdest band on this list by far. It's Samla Mamas Manna. And these guys are one of the earliest prog bands in Sweden. They were part of something called the Prog movement with 2 Gs. I guess it was a real political movement more than a musical movement. There were 2 record labels that were part of this whole thing, Silence Records being one of them, which put out most of these records by this band. Yeah, they are very much indebted to Zappa and the wackier side of things. There's all kinds of goofy percussion, courtesy of Hasse Bruneson, who would later on join the Flower Kings. But you've also got Costa Apatria on guitar and vocals, Lasse Holmer on keyboards, and Lars Krantz on bass. After 1977, these guys kind of reformed as Samla Mamas Manna, put out a couple albums. And then after that, in the 80s, they were Von Samla, I guess led by Lars Krantz there. In 1999, they reformed with the original 4 members for an album called Kaka, which was good, but I'm spotlighting the 1973 masterpiece, Melted. I love this album. It is so cool. Yeah, it's got the Zappa stuff and the rock and opposition stuff going on, but it also has a lot of Scandinavian folk influences. It's just beautiful. I love it. At number 8, how about Isildur's Bane? Yeah, the name comes from Tolkien. I guess that's another name for the One Ring. And I'm spotlighting their 2017 album, Off the Radar, that nobody ever talks about, probably because it's kind of sandwiched in between some of their better-known records. They went away from vocals on this because they had been doing vocals like Mind Volume 4, and then they've done an album with Steve Hogarth, and they've done 2 records with Peter Hamill because they're basically an instrumental band, and that's where I really do enjoy them the most. These guys were formed all the way back in 1976. They didn't bother putting out a album until 1984. This is a really weird collective, hardly a band at all. It's almost like a commune, but when these guys get together to record an album, it's something special. At number 7, it's Anekdoten, boys and girls. Yeah, the number 1 King Crimson influenced band of all time, and I'm spotlighting their most recent album, 2015's Until All the Ghosts Are Gone. Their first album came out in 1993 with VMod, so this is definitely one of those bands that put Scandinavian prog back on the map in the 90s. Originally, they were going to call themselves King Edward, I guess as a sop to their King Crimson early days when they were a KC tribute band. This band is just so whacked out. If you think about it, they've been around for like 30 years. They've only put out 6 albums, and it's been the same lineup for each album, so that's really cool. And they need to get bonus points for that, don't they? At number 6, it's the mighty and powerful Opeth. Yeah, best known for their death metal days with albums like Ghost Reveries and Still Life, which I'm spotlighting here, and Blackwater Park and all that stuff. Me, myself, and I, you know I like the clean vocals. You know I don't like the Cookie Monster stuff. So I'm the guy that likes Damnation, Heritage, Pale Communion, Sorceress, and Incauda Venom better. But yeah, it's those metal albums people are always gonna gravitate towards, and that's why you're looking at the Still Life album cover right there at number 5. Let's all hail 5-part vocal harmonies, and Moon Safari's making the list, boys and girls. Yes, indeed, they were discovered by Thomas Bodine from the Flower Kings. I guess these guys sent a demo tape over there, and heard it, loved it, and why wouldn't you want to hear more of this? I mean, the first album came out in 2005, Doorway to Summer. I'm spotlighting their brilliant second album, Blumel from 2008. Then they did Lover's End in 2010 and Himmelbach at #1 in 2013. So it's been 10 years that we've been waiting for a new album from Moon Safari. Come on, guys, get it together. We're waiting breathlessly for Himmelbach Volume 2, but we'll wait a little bit longer. We've got 4 Moon Safari albums to tide us over. In the meantime, at #4, let's talk about a solo artist, the great Bo Hansen. Oh man, the influence that this guy has had on Scandinavian progressive rock cannot be underestimated. Can't be overestimated either, I guess. I'm spotlighting his third album, Attic Thoughts, here. He got his start with the Lord of the Rings album in 1972. Then he did the Magician's Hat in 73. And he did his fourth and final album, 1977, Watership Down. And this guy here left us in 2010, but he left us with 4 perfect albums of instrumental prog to sink your teeth into and really enjoy. And I don't think there's a single Swedish musician that can't say they owe a debt of gratitude to Bo Hansen. And even some non-Swedish musicians. Apparently Jimi Hendrix was a big fan and played a Bo Hansen song on numerous occasions live. That's pretty cool. At #3, we talked about him before, and now here they are. It's Kaipa, one of the great prog bands from the 70s. These guys were formed by Hans Lunden, and they have they consider Roy Nastalt in their mix. He was on their first 3 albums from the 70s, including 1978's third album, Solo. During the 80s, they went commercial like everybody else, but then they came back strong in the 2000s with a brand new lineup. They brought Roy Nastalt back. He's on the first 3 reunion albums, so he's in a grand total of 6 Kaipa albums. Then he left, and they brought in Per Nielsen on guitar. I love new Kaipa. I love 70s Kaipa. You cannot go wrong. This is a phenomenal band that has such a huge discography of greatness. Check it out if you don't know Kaipa. Highly recommended. You know the drill. At #2, it's Änglagård, the band that single-handedly put the prog world on their shoulders in 1992 and carried us into a new era. Thank God for Änglagård. And I'm spotlighting their 1992 debut album, Hybris. That was the shot heard around the world, and prog was back. Yeah, there was some stuff happening in the U.S. with, particularly the progressive metal stuff going on, the Fates Warning stuff, and the Queensryche stuff, and the Dream Theater stuff. But, there was also other things going on here. You did have the origins of bands like Ekelund early in the 90s. So Sweden and the U.S. were definitely the 2, driving forces behind prog coming back in the 90s, and no one was more important than Änglagård. And if you just think about Mattias Olsson was 17 years old when they recorded this thing, man, just nuts, just crazy. They're back with a new lineup. Mattias Olsson's back in the band. They're doing some dates. Fingers crossed we get a 4th Änglagård album here real soon. And at #1, you know who it is. It can only be the Flower Kings, boys and girls, and I'm spotlighting the 2012 album, Banks of Eden. Yeah, all the albums I spotlighted were the ones that were highest rated on Prog Archives. That's why I spotlighted Still Life from Opeth and not, Pale Communion. But here we go. The Flower Kings are the most important prog band in Sweden, and they have been for a long, long time, since the 90s. The pedigree goes all the way back to Kaipa in the 70s. Roy Nastalt, he is one of the most important figures in all of prog rock, not just in Sweden. So I salute the Flower Kings as the #1 band in the history of Swedish prog rock. What country should we do next, man? That was a lot of fun running through Swedish prog rock. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, you guys have a great day. I'll see you soon. Peace and love, and God save the king. Yes, save that king. He needs some saving, don't he? Peace.